Welcome to the Daily Fantasy Basketball Podcast. I am Kyle McEwen. You can find me on Twitter at RotoKyleNBA. I'm going to be doing a mock draft solo today. It's a rotisserie mock draft, 12-team league, 9 categories. That's including turnovers. So we got about 3 minutes or so before the draft starts. So I'm just going to go over what's different for rotisserie as compared to if you're playing in a standard head-to-head league, which is the most common type of league. In a rotisserie league, you have to draft for all 9 stats. You can't punt any statistics. If you do, you're very unlikely to win the league. You can finish still high in the standings with a very low mark in one particular category, but it's highly unlikely you would actually finish as the best team and win the league if you punt any categories for rotisserie. So if somebody suggests you do that, don't. Just don't. Now, when we talk about head-to-head, we always talk about the punt strategy we use in head-to-head, and that's to punt the percentages and punt turnovers. So you're actually just focusing on the 6 positive counting stats. When you do that, the rankings change so much for certain players whose value is very much tied to their percentages. So I just want to kind of illustrate which players gain value and which players lose value in a rotisserie league as compared to a head-to-head rankings like the punt strategy that we talk about so much during these podcasts. So Anthony Davis in head-to-head, he's the 7th overall player for those rankings, but because he's so good in field goal percentage and free throw percentage, he's actually the number 1 ranked player in your 9-cat rotisserie leagues. Kawhi Leonard's rank in head-to-head is 33, so he's a lower-ranked player in head-to-head. We don't like to take him early, and he always goes early in drafts, so I always avoid Kawhi Leonard in my head-to-head leagues. But in rotisserie leagues, Kawhi Leonard is the 13th best player according to our projections. So he gets, almost 2 more rounds of value, almost to that first-round value. And if you were to believe that he was going to take a significant jump this year or that he might get just more possessions this year, might get more minutes this year for whatever reason, if you believe that about Kawhi, then you should feel good taking him at the end of the first round. But he's somebody who, Roto World talks about him a lot because he is a very good player. But there's something about Spurs players, and that main thing about Spurs players is that they run such a deep rotation. They limit the players' minutes to a certain cap, so that limits their ceiling in fantasy. So that's a difficult thing. And the other thing about Kawhi is I don't believe he's ever played more than 67 games in a regular season. So you've got that bugaboo kind of holding down his value as well because he's not going to be in the lineup for you every single night. A couple other guys whose value changes due to the head-to-head and rotisserie formats. Marc Gasol in head-to-head, 30th ranked overall. In rotisserie, though, 16th. And I'm even willing to take Marc Gasol at the beginning of the second round because if you don't get a big man with good percentages early, you put yourself in a really bad spot. Probably one of the most key things to know about rotisserie leagues, percentages are king. I know I'm throwing a lot of information out here really early. We got 1:30 left until the draft starts, so we'll just kind of get into talking about players a lot more. Once again, this is the Daily Fantasy Basketball Podcast. You can find me, Kyle McEwen, on Twitter at RotoKyleNBA. If you like our content, if you like our podcast, go check out our rankings on the site. They're free on dailyfantasybasketballpodcast.com. If you like the rankings, if they help you out, feel free to donate on the site. We have a PayPal button there. Or if you enjoy these podcasts, please go rate and review us on iTunes, comment on YouTube. If you use TuneIn or Stitcher or whatever, if they have a comments section or a way to rate and review the podcast, please do that. That helps us get high in the rankings and helps us kind of keep on trying to make this into something that's going to be sustainable for Mark and I. So sorry for that little salesman thing there. But anyways, talking about players whose value increases or decreases from head-to-head to roto rankings. Serge Ibaka, 39 in head-to-head, 19 in roto. So he improves greatly because he's a good percentages guy. Al Horford, this is one of the most stark ones. In head-to-head, our projections rank Al Horford as the 59th best player. On Yahoo, they have him ranked 10th overall. So, or he was ranked 10th overall earlier. That looks like they changed the rankings recently and dropped Al Horford to 20th overall. This may have just changed as of today, actually. For rotisserie, though, that's very appropriate. We actually have Al Horford 21st overall in rotisserie formats. Okay, our draft's just about to start now. Anthony Davis was just taken number 1 overall. That's chalk with our rankings. That's right where we have him. Second for us is Kevin Durant, and then Steph Curry, James Harden, and Chris Paul. I absolutely love getting Steph and Curry and Chris Paul in this format. It gives you great percentages with great assists and good points. And Steph Curry, there's a very good argument for taking Steph Curry number 1 overall in this format, because you can get blocks in the next couple rounds, but to get elite points, pretty darn good assists, to close to elite assists from Steph Curry on top of his great percentages shooting from the field with so many attempts, there's a lot to love there about getting Steph Curry this early in the draft, or even, taking him with the first pick potentially over Anthony Davis. So that's something to consider. Kevin Durant, the only reason you wouldn't take him as one of the top 3 players is if you doubt his health. So that's really the only thing with Durant, and he's looked great in the preseason. He doesn't look tepid at all. He's going to the rack, tripping up over people and trying to get to the, just gesticulating himself a bunch of different ways so that he can get to the rack, finish there, and then he's willing to take a tumble. So he's obviously not too worried about the health of his foot, his surgically repaired foot that he had surgically repaired 3 times last season. I still have my concerns about Durant. I don't really want to invest my first overall pick on a guy who's coming off of 3-foot surgeries, even though all the news says he's good. And there's been a track record of guys coming back from these kind of foot injuries and being okay. Brook Lopez, he broke 1 foot and then he broke the other one. But when he actually came back from each of those, he was okay. He had one season where he didn't play a lot. The next season he was healthy. He played a lot. He broke his other foot, didn't play a lot. Then he had 74 games last season out of Brook Lopez. So Aaron Gordon had a broken foot last year. There's been a lot of guys who've broken their foot over the last couple of years, and it seems like they can go out for about 4 to 6 months and come back and be okay. So it's and that's just a gross estimate on the time that they're out. So here it is. It's my first pick. It is the 11th pick. I'm looking at getting potentially John Wall, Paul George, and Marc Gasol here. Oh man, who do I take? I want those elite assists, so I'm going to go ahead and take John Wall here. Now, it's going to come right back to me in 2 picks. So I had the 11th pick, and I'm going to have the 14th pick. The guys we've already seen come off the board so far in this draft: Anthony Davis, Steph Curry, James Harden, Kevin Durant, Chris Paul. You love those top 5. LeBron James, Russell Westbrook, DeMarcus Cousins, Carmelo Anthony, Kawhi Leonard, John Wall, Damian Lillard, Paul George, and then I'm going to take Marc Gasol with the 14th pick. I know he wouldn't have dropped me. Here's the thing. When you're picking at the end of the first round, that means you're picking at the beginning of the second round, which means you're picking at the end of the third round. And by the end of the third round in a 12-team league, 12-team draft like this, you've got the 35th pick and then you've got the 38th pick. Marc Gasol gets drafted on average. I think his ADP on Yahoo, I think, is 28th. He's not going to drop to you that far. And with his great percentages, nearly shooting 50% from the floor, shooting well over 70%. I think he shoots like 78% from free throw line. Yeah. Those are just great percentages to get out of your center spot, because so many centers shoot terribly from the free throw line. So you love to get somewhere closer to the 80%. When you're playing in a rotisserie league, something I forgot to get to earlier, I went off on a tangent. Your percentages are king. You need to get good percentages in the draft, because that's going to be the base of your team is your percentages. It's almost exactly the opposite of head-to-head. So getting guys who are great in percentages, John Wall, that's one where you're kind of sitting there going, well, he's not the perfect player for rotisserie, is he? But he shoots a decent enough free throw percentage at 78, and he's a 44% field goal shooter. Like I think Paul George is projected here in the Yahoo projections to shoot like 42%, whereas John Wall, who's a point guard versus a guy who's going to play small forward, power forward, is projected to shoot better than than Paul George. So it's important to be conscious of your percentages as a team. You don't always trust the projections on a particular site, but whenever I'm doing a rotisserie draft, I'm always keeping an eye on what the standings are, and being able to see, okay, what is my field goal percentage at? What is my free throw percentage at? And you can always pull that up on Yahoo or wherever it is you're drafting. So for targeting what kind of percentage you want for your team, you want about 48% in your field goal percentage, and you want 78 to 80% for your free throw percentage. Generally, I target to try to get a team field goal percentage of 48 and a team free throw percentage of 80%. If you're keeping that in mind, when you see guys like Andre Drummond, Dwight Howard, those guys are off limits in rotisserie leagues. And it's not even off limits. It's if you draft a Dwight Howard because he goes to the free throw line so much and shoots so terribly there. And the same for Andre Drummond, the same for DeAndre Jordan. If you draft these guys, you are going to be in like the bottom 3 for free throw percentage. You're not going to get jack squat for points in that category. If you don't get enough points in that category, you can't punt in rotisserie. So that's essentially what you're doing by drafting guys like that. Those hack-a-shack guys who get sent to the foul line because they suck so much at shooting free throws. If you have those kind of guys on your team, and this year it's like we just went over Dwight Howard, Andre Drummond, DeAndre Jordan, Jahlil Okafor is at risk of being a guy like that. Mason Plumlee, who's going to step up in Portland. Those guys are off your draft board. You do not take them, because if you do, you will automatically lose free throws, and then you're trying to fight to get so many other points made up in these other categories. It's a death sentence. I can't say it enough. Don't do it. You can't outsmart people because it's just math, and you won't win. So anyways, sorry for the doom and gloom in regards to those players, but don't draft them. I'm still sitting here. You know, when you draft at the end of the first round, especially in a 12-team draft, you got to wait a long time. And that's why if you are on one of the ends, whether you're drafted number 1 overall or drafting 10th, 11th, 12th, there's such a long time between your picks where it goes back to everybody else in the league. They get 2 picks before it comes back to you pretty much. That's a lot of guys coming off the board between your selections, which means you have to have a good plan of how you're going to build your team, because you're going to have to reach on some guys sometimes. And one of the players that I'm reaching on, if he's going to, in all my drafts right now, is Reggie Jackson. He's getting drafted in the 4th round every single draft that I go in. So if you don't have a pick, if your pick is at the beginning of the 4th round, take him at the end of the 3rd or the beginning of the 4th. And I would be taking him at the end of the 3rd right now. The Yahoo continues to move up Reggie Jackson's O rank because he keeps going up higher and higher in the ADP, because people are starting to see through the preseason how dynamic of a scorer he can be, how many assists he's getting in this spread out offense with just him and Andre Drummond running the pick and roll together. So there's a lot to like about Reggie Jackson right now. Let's check back in on these draft results here. So as we were coming into the 2nd round, it was Damian Lillard at the end of the 1st, paired up with Paul George. Then I took Marc Gasol, then Rudy Gobert, DeAndre Jordan. Rudy Gobert's another guy who's kind of on the fringe of that do not draft because of his free throw percentage thing. Jimmy Butler, Klay Thompson, Blake Griffin, Serge Ibaka, LaMarcus Aldridge, Paul Millsap, Andre Drummond, Nikola Vucevic. That's all the 2nd round. 3rd round's Al Horford, Nerlens Noel, Kyle Lowry, Kevin Love, Draymond Green, Victor Oladipo, and Kyrie Irving. Now, when you're playing in a rotisserie league, the other cool thing that you can do is you can go after some of those injured guys if they come to you at a discount, because your bench spots are essentially they're just holding. That's just a queue for you. You're not actually using your bench players as much as you are in a daily head-to-head league. In a daily head-to-head league, you can rotate your lineup every single day. You can get new guys in. If there's fewer games on that day, you can rotate in your bench guys and all that kind of stuff. But in rotisserie leagues, you generally have a games limit of 82 games at each position. So unless a player that is one of your key guys in your active slots ends up getting injured or underperforming, you're not going to take those guys out of your lineup. You're not going to rotate in the bench guys. So that means your 3 bench spots that you have in a standard league, you can use that to stash a player like a Jrue Holiday potentially. Now, there are IR slots on Yahoo this year and on ESPN. So as long as your league opts to use those injured reserve slots, that's where you can stash a guy like Kyrie Irving in the interim. But the reason I'm bringing up a guy like Drew Holiday is because in a head-to-head league with daily lineups, I'm not drafting a guy like Drew Holiday. And I'm sorry, wait up here for 1 second. I need to make my pick. So it is the sugar plums. Where are you, baby? It's the end of the third round. I know I want Reggie Jackson. I know I need his elite assist. Assists are so hard to get in rotisserie leagues. After Reggie Jackson went Pau Gasol and Eric Bledsoe. So I've got John Wall, Reggie Jackson, and Marc Gasol. And I am going to pair him. Oh, sugar. That was tough for me. I just decided to take Reggie Jackson at the end of the third round, and I paired him with Derek Favors at the beginning of the fourth. I really wanted to take Gordon Hayward. Gordon Hayward is ranked higher than both of Reggie Jackson and Derek Favors in our rankings. But with that said, the thing about Reggie Jackson is he's just going earlier and earlier. And our rankings were, we were hedging our bets. We were taking the Vegas line there and saying, what would we project to say, okay, some people would take the under, some people would take the over. That's the way a lot of our projections work. We're not trying to get right on the button to say this is exactly what this player averaged. We want to give you an idea of where kind of that middle ground is or whatever, because they might do worse this season, they might do better based on injuries and just kind of whatever randomness happens. So as I was saying, I paired John Wall and Reggie Jackson with Marc Gasol and Derek Favors. I wanted Gordon Hayward there. I want to get Gordon Hayward so bad. But as I've done tons of different rotisserie mock drafts, as you get deeper into the draft, it's harder to find those big men who are good for you. I love taking Tim Duncan in these leagues. If you can get him, he's a great value. He's going to give you something consistent. If he's ever out of the lineup on a given night, you usually know during the shoot around earlier in the day, so you can make an adjustment to your daily lineup or for rotisserie leagues in that, okay, Duncan's not going to play. I know I need to get somebody in there to make up that game for that 82 games limit at the center position. So I'm just going to insert some guy off my bench, whether that, one of the sleepers that you added at the end of the draft, or somebody who maybe you're stashing who is injured. So looking here now, let's see, where are we at? I'm going to go over the draft results recently. So for the third round, we ended up with Al Horford, Nerlens Noel, Kyle Lowry, Kevin Love, Draymond Green, Victor Oladipo, Kyrie Irving, Hassan Whiteside, Rajon Rondo. Whoa, somebody is smoking crack. Brook Lopez, Reggie Jackson, Pau Gasol, Eric Bledsoe, Derek Favors. I'm sorry, now we're in the fourth round with Eric Bledsoe, Derek Favors, Mike Conley, Dwight Howard, Jeff Teague, Al Jefferson, Gordon Hayward at 43, Chris Bosh, Rudy Gay, Brandon Knight, and Trevor Ariza in the fourth round. So I've still got, no, I got to wait until the end of this round for it to come to me, the end of the fifth round. Marcin Gortat was just taken. And talking about strategy here, let's see where I'm at in the standings right now. My field goal percentage is, biscuits, where are we at? I'm at the bottom. So I'm still looking to improve that if I can. I'm just at 47%. Or that's not bad because we know our mark actually. If our mark for a team field goal percentage is 48 and I'm at 46.7, I'm not too far off. What you're seeing right now is some guys in the projected standings this early in the draft, some people just went overboard with field goal percentage early so that they're sitting up there. It's good to have perspective on that, or to know where you stand with what kind of outcome you're trying to get to. All right. So at the top of the board, still sitting there is Dirk Nowitzki and Kenneth Faried. Faried's interesting in some respects because he gives you pretty good field goal percentage. All right. Just about 5 picks away from mine. I apologize if there's a little bit more dead silence on this than usual. It's just me, I need to take a drink of water and a breath sometimes. Delicious air. Do 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 do. And there might be a little singing and humming sometimes too. Just pretend you're listening to a Neil Diamond album when that happens. So some guys who I'm looking at here, Jonas Valanciunas is interesting because I go after so much different guys in rotisserie than what I go after in head-to-head in a lot of respects. I don't go after Marc Gasol in head-to-head. I go after him aggressively in my rotisserie leagues. Jonas Valanciunas, I don't like him in head-to-head because you don't know from the night to night how many minutes he's going to play. But Valanciunas is a guy who can offer you we've got him projected for 58% field goal and like 78% on his free throws. That's crazy. That is awesome. So I'm probably going to just go ahead and take my boy Jonas here. Improve my field goal percentage a little bit, which is important with John Wall and Reggie Jackson chucking a lot of shots and shooting a lower percentage as guards. So that's something to keep in mind. Another thing to keep in mind, if you are looking at the projections that a particular site has, whether you're drafting on Yahoo like I am right now, or if you jerk turkeys, Craig Monroe and Karl Towns were taken right after Valanciunas. I should have taken Karl Anthony Towns. I actually value Towns more than I value I value Towns more than I value Valanciunas. I think Towns is going to get plenty of run in Minnesota. I'm not worried about anybody stealing his minutes. Karl Anthony Towns' minutes are going to depend on how he feels from game to game and whether or not that team is willing to put big minutes on his shoulders. Yes, he only played 22 minutes per game at Kentucky last year, but that was because that was the rotation that Calipari ran. He just ran a super deep rotation, and he's not doing that again because he was afraid it kind of killed some of the kids' draft stock and yada yada yada. Just didn't seem worth it in the end. So yeah, I'm happy with Valanciunas, happy with Marc Gasol, happy with Derek Favors. That gives me a great foundation in the front court. All guys who are going to shoot better percentages than most big men. And then in my backcourt, I just took Ty Lawson with my last pick because I knew that he wasn't going to be there when my 2 picks came back around in about 20 picks. I love getting Ty Lawson in rotisserie leagues. He had the second best assist to turnover ratio in the league last year, behind only Chris Paul. If you're a regular listener, you've heard me say that probably every single podcast. And he's going to be playing on a good team this year. Okay, don't get so down on Ty Lawson just because he was in a bad spot in Denver and took to drinking. All right, if Brian Shaw was your boss, you would have become an alcoholic too. So let's see who else is available here. Nick Batum. Oh gosh, this guy. Batum's a little bit lower in our rankings than where I would take him, and that's because we didn't give him too many points, because it's hard to know exactly how much he's going to run the offense, exactly how much the ball is going to be in his hand in Charlotte. It's a new team. It's a new player with a new coach, so you want to temper your expectations a little bit, but the potential, if Batum is really the number one kind of option there, ahead of Kemba Walker, ahead of Al Jefferson, and that seems to be what they're speaking to happening this season, it's going to be interesting. But we also know that, and this is not a comparison for saying that the same thing's going to happen, but it just maybe reminds us to temper our expectations. Some people were very high on what Lance Stevenson could do with a little bit more freedom last year. I thought, hell, why can't he do great on this Charlotte team that's desperate for someone to have a little bit more flash in their game? And it didn't work out. He was terrible. He says that he didn't have the ball in his hands enough. Well, dude, there was already a starting point guard on the team who was actually a starting point guard and not shooting guard like George Hill masquerading as a point guard. So he should have understood the situation better and made better for himself. But anyways, all I'm saying is that the offense in Charlotte may or may not be conducive to what Batum offers. I would think it will be fine because he seems to look for the pass first rather than for his own shot. Hopefully he's more aggressive though this year as well to score a little bit more. All right, I got about 8 more picks until my pick. Let's see who's been drafted recently. We'll go back to round 5. We saw round 4 end with Marcin Gortat. Then we had Tobias Harris, Danilo Gallinari, Nikola Mirotic, love the pick. Tim Duncan, love the pick. Dirk Nowitzki, Isaiah Thomas, Kenneth Faried, Kyle Korver, hate the pick. Dwayne Wade, hate the pick. Damari Carroll, Jonas Valanciunas, Greg Monroe, Karl Anthony Towns, Ty Lawson, Danny Green. He's perfect for rotisserie, but I hate that you love that he gives you a block. You love that he gives you 3-pointers. You love that Danny Green gives you good percentages and he doesn't turn the ball over, but he doesn't do a lot in assists and he doesn't do a lot in rebounds. And you're just, maybe, am I drunk about that? Is he a good rebounder? Yeah, I think he's a decent rebounder, whatever. He's not sexy. He's not sexy at all. You're not sexy, Danny Green. Sorry, baby. Anthony Morrow, Kemba Walker, Chandler Parsons. Hey, look, I've got a broken knee. Zach Randolph, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Goran Dragic, Gorgie Jang, Nicholas Batum, DeMar DeRozan, Monte Ellis. Now we're getting into round 7. Monte Ellis, George Hill, Terrence Jones, Andrew Wiggins, Alfred Payton, Ryan Anderson, and Chris Middleton. Chris Middleton going really late for a 9-cat league. 9-cat league. Oh, where the heck do we have Middleton ranked at? And we're probably, a little bit. Oh, biscuits. Maybe we do have him a lot lower. Where are you, Chris Middleton? I believe in you. 47th. He just went. We have Chris Middleton 47th, and we're only giving him 30 minutes a game in his projection. He just went 79th. Got him. Is that 30? Yeah, it's 30 freaking picks later than he should have went. Cray. Joakim Noah, Ricky Rubio. And now I'm looking at Robert Covington, CJ McCollum, and I'm going CJ's, BJ's. So I just took CJ McCollum. Another guy that would have been interesting to pick would Tyson Chandler. Tyson Chandler's great for rotisserie leagues because he gets you that huge field goal percentage and his little bit lower free throw percentage. He's not taking a crap ton of free throws, so you're not really too worried about that. Just double checking who I'm going to take here. I got Myers Leonard on my mind, and I'm going to take him. Okay, so let's double check in with my team here. I got John Wall, Reggie Jackson, Ty Lawson, so that's a good assist core. All of them are going to shoot probably about 44% or better from the field. All of them are going to shoot, better, close to sugar plums. I hope Ty Lawson gets his free throw percentage up because he's projected to shoot just 75%. That would help. In the front court, I got Derek Favors, Myers Leonard, Marc Gasol, Jonas Valanciunas, and then CJ McCollum down in my utility spot. Pretty solid team so far. I like it. Rotisserie leagues are just brutal. I am not hitting my percentages marks right now. 47% field goal. It's close. You're looking to get at 48%. I've just got 76% free throw. So hopefully I get some guys here near the end of the draft who can do me a little bit better than that. David Lee just went off at 89th. After my pick of Myers Leonard, saw Tyson Chandler, Darren Williams, David Lee. He's a great rotisserie league pick this year. He's going to give you great field goal percentage, good free throw percentage for a big man. He's going to give you some assists. We don't know exactly how many minutes he's going to get with the Celtics, but he's expected to be the starting power forward there. So it seems like he's going to get plenty of run. It seems that David Lee is the number one big man for the Celtics this year. So he's probably going to get a lot more consistent minutes than what we saw out of anybody last year in that front court, which is intriguing. So, and they traded for him. They want him. They wanted him there. So you love David Lee. He's going to give you some assists if he's used the same way that he was used in the past. He's not going to really help you in blocks or steals, but his what he does for you in percentages, great rebounding by per minute, good assist. Those are things that just add up in rotisserie leagues. So, and And like we said earlier, percentages are king. So I got to fill up my queue here. I'm going to go with Enos Cantor. You love his percentages. Projected to shoot 51% and 78%, according to Yahoo. Markieff Morris gets put in the queue. He's going at a discount this year because of all the bad publicity around him requesting a trade out of Phoenix, but that of course did not materialize. I am not drafting Emmanuel Mudiay. I am not drafting Ricky Rubio. I am not drafting Michael Carter-Williams because these guys are just horrible in things like turnovers and percentages. I know this is a little bit like stark, but like it's completely the opposite of head-to-head. And head-to-head, I don't care about the percentages. I don't care about turnovers. I'll draft them all day, bad ones. But in rotisserie, you have to care about the percentages. You have to care about turnovers because you can't be last in pretty much any category. Otherwise, you're just shooting yourself in the face. All right, so who else do we want to look at here? Stanley Johnson, I put in my queue. You don't like what Yahoo projects him for his field goal percentage at 42%, but I would think he finishes closer to 44, which isn't great, but it is what it is. What else are we going to add here? I'm going to throw Alec Burks into my queue. I've got Al-Farouq Aminu in there. He's not perfect, but there's enough to like about him, and he's going to help you out with some of your rebounds, your steals, your blocks. His percentages aren't god-awful. Aminu is projected to shoot 46% according to Yahoo and 71%. All right, it's my pick here. Gotta double check and see that there's not somebody I'm forgetting. At this point in the draft, sugar. I feel like I can wait. I'm gonna draft Aminu. So I went with Aminu because Cantor and Markieff Morris went off the board right before mine. I probably would have taken Cantor if I had my pick of choice, because we're seeing Cantor even in limited minutes coming off the bench for the Thunder in the preseason or last year. He just goes out there, and when he's on the court, it's buckets and rebounds. He's just crushing the boards and scoring points left and right, doing it efficiently, both from the field and at the line. You love the percentages that Cantor gives you. He's David Lee without the assists. So, all right, my next pick, I'm actually going to take Nick Stauskas here with my next pick. I can probably wait on him. I can wait on him. I decided to take Stanley Johnson. I'm seeing Stanley Johnson get taken as high as like 87th in some of my recent drafts. So people are high on him, and I'm talking like my expert drafts. Stanley Johnson's actually falling in a lot of the just random mock drafts that I'm doing on Yahoo and ESPN. But in the expert drafts that I've been doing lately, Stanley Johnson's getting taken like in the 80s, which I think is kind of, it's appropriate being that he's going to probably put up that kind of value. But it just pisses me off that you got to take him that high, if I'm going to be completely honest, because you don't know if he's going to actually, as much as high of hopes as I have for Stanley Johnson, I'm like his biggest believer. You don't know what kind of adversity is going to hit this kid. And it's not fun to talk about. I don't know. You just don't know. He's going to get out there on the road. You don't know if he's going to start to have emotional issues for, maybe he's okay with it, but being out on the road constantly, being away from your family. His mom just died this summer. I don't know. He's a flipping rookie, and you're taking him that early in the draft when you know the opportunity is there, but there's still risk. Whatever. I got him, so I don't know why I'm talking so nasty about him. But I also got Stanley Johnson in the 9th round, start of the 9th round, 110th pick of a 12-team draft. All right, so let's take a look back at the last couple rounds. Round 7, Kobe Bryant, Myers Leonard, Tyson Chandler, Darren Williams, David Lee, Michael Carter-Williams, Roy Hibbert, Thaddeus Young, J.J. Redick, Robin Lopez. Lopez, great percentages for a big man. Nice pull at this end, this late in the draft. Tyreek Evans, Ursan Ilyasova, Bradley Beal, moving into round 8. Bradley Beal, Jabari Parker. If you can stash Parker, cool. If he's getting spot minutes early and resting every couple games, that's going to be brutal. Then again, as we were talking about earlier, kind of with Drew Holiday, it is a rotisserie league. Your bench spots are more just places where you can hold players. You're not really rotating them into your active slots as often. So maybe it can work by grabbing Parker. If by February or something, Jabari Parker's playing a full complement of minutes and showing improvement in his second season, then zippity doodah. J.R. Smith, Derrick Rose, Eric Gordon, Andrew Bogut, Wilson Chandler, Joe Johnson, Enos Kanter, Markieff Morris, Al-Farouq Aminu, that was my pick, D'Angelo Russell, that rounds out the 9th round. And then in the 10th round, Luol Deng, Stanley Johnson, Kevin Martin, Timothy Mozgov, Jahlil Okafor. Again, Okafor, you're not looking to take in rotisserie leagues because you're worried about his free throw percentage being horrendous. Yusuf Nurkic, Emmanuel Mudiay. Nurkic is one of those guys you can stash in your IR slot. He's a really, really high upside pick this late. Emmanuel Mudiay, not taking him in rotisserie leagues. He's probably going to shoot crap percentage from the field, crap percentage from the free throw line. Not taking Emmanuel Mudiay in rotisserie leagues. Ed Davis, Amir Johnson, Darren Collison, Mason Plumlee. He's another one of those Jahlil Okafor guys. Do not try to resist him in rotisserie leagues. Frank Kaminsky, he's not going to play. Going into the 10th round here, I've got to actually make a pick really quick. I'm going to take my boy Nick Stauskas. So 10th round, Marcus Smart, Wesley Matthews, Lou Williams, Avery Bradley, Jay Crowder, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Tony Allen, Jarrett Jack, Taj Gibson, Harrison Barnes, and Nick Stauskas. I just took, and then we'll have one more pick in the round 11 before it goes into the 12th round. Stauskas, he's in a good position this year. I'm not looking at his stats from last season at all for what he was with the Kings. He was drafted onto a team who didn't have a role for him, who weren't willing to play him, even though they sucked. It's extremely frustrating. We saw Ty Corbin be the coach of a team with the Denver Nuggets, and it was horrible. J.J. Hickson all over the place, man. Right? Wasn't that him? Anyways, or no. Ty Corbin was there when they still had the actual big men and whatnot. Why did I say J.J. Hickson? I was really mixing up Denver and Utah there. That was embarrassing. All right, I got to make another pick. The only guy in my queue is T.J. Warren right now. I probably should have been paying more attention. Why not go with some? Yeah, that's fine. So went ahead and took T.J. Warren because I wasn't really paying attention, and that's brutal and a terrible job by me. Totally unprofessional, Kyle. I'm ashamed of you. But T.J. Warren is good for rotisserie leagues because he's projected to shoot close to 50% from the field as a small forward. He might be overtaking the starting small forward job, and he could have great steals numbers for you with the occasional three-pointer. So, yeah, not a terrible selection. I would have probably rather gone with Otto Porter, who I should have had in my queue. Aaron Gordon's somebody to keep an eye on. I'm not touching Ben McLemore this year. I really think that he might get pushed for minutes big by Marco Bellinelli. You can throw Rodney Hood in your queue. It's looking like he's stepping into a bigger role on Utah. Trey Burke might just get marginalized there if Alec Burks and Rodney Hood shine. They might just run a bigger lineup more often. Jeremy Lin, someone to have in your queue. Kristaps Porzingis. I probably would have taken Porzingis before I took T.J. Warren if I had my dang queue filled up and wasn't busy trying to do all this jazz. You dig? So going through here, I'm looking at other players to add to my queue. Usually when I get to Kristaps Porzingis, I stop. There's not generally anybody after him. Zach LaVine's after him. You're not touching Zach LaVine in a rotisserie league. The dude's going to shoot like 2% from the field this year. So just avoid. You can go ahead and take a flyer on Zach LaVine in your head-to-head leagues, but in rotisserie, just do not. You will cry. You will cry yourself to sleep at night. There's not a lot of guys buried in the rankings for Yahoo this year. They did a pretty good job of keeping most of the relevant guys within the top 200 or within the top 160, which is darn good job. Because because it's hard to project who's going to have those good roles and all that kind of stuff. So I'm hoping Porzingis drops to me down here with my final pick at 155. If it does, this is a mock draft on Yahoo that I'm doing. So there's people who've dropped out periodically. Like half the teams are just drafting right from the rankings on Yahoo. So if there's a guy who's ranked 157th and I've got the 155th pick, he's not even going to be near the top of the queue really, because there's other players kind of littered before him who didn't get drafted as well. But Otto Porter just got taken. I think Otto Porter is a very intriguing player this season. I've been getting him in a lot of my drafts. He's going to shoot a decent percentage from the field, a pretty darn good percentage from the free throw line, and he's the unchallenged starter there at small forward for the Wizards. Somebody has to start picking up more production there. It's possible he could get some run as a small ball power forward as well. Just lots to like about Otto Porter. He's going to have those. He's going to be on Shaqtin' a Fool a couple times for his defensive, just like where he forgets that he's playing basketball or that he's in the state he's in sometimes. But he's kind of a goofball airhead a little bit, but he also can go out there and just kill it. Going back to some of the guys who we were talking about at the beginning of the podcast, and we were touching on whose value goes up a lot. From or goes down a lot when comparing head-to-head to rotisserie rankings. Brook Lopez or DeAndre Jordan. Let's go with DeAndre Jordan. In head-to-head, he's 16th ranked. In rotisserie, he's 27th. But like we've said with guys like him, you're not drafting them because they kill you so much in the one category for free throws percentage. If it's a free throw percentage league, you are not drafting DeAndre Jordan, Andre Drummond, or Dwight Howard or Jahlil Okafor or any of these guys. Now, some people, because of that, for rotisserie leagues, because of the worry of not being able to draft those guys in rotisserie leagues, what they'll do is they'll switch out free throw percentage with free throws made. That way you get rewarded for guys getting to the line, but you don't get penalized for them missing their free throws. It's a unique, different way to do it to kind of keep it fresh and keep all the players having a considerable or a good amount of value for what they offer. So some people don't like that you're not punishing those guys, but when you know that the format of the game or the way the game is played kind of puts you in a position where you can't even use those guys because they're just so detrimental to you actually winning the league, then you start to make concessions and you say, you know what, free throws made is a pretty good deal. Like they still have to get there 8 times to get 4 free throws made. So it's kind of fair, You're still getting an advantage by somebody who shoots a better free throw percentage because they're making a higher percentage of the attempts that they take. So it still helps you. And there's still like an accountability kind of thing for if you're looking to make that argument to somebody. That's all I was really doing. So I think we left off back at the end of round 10. So I'm just going to go back to round 10 and finish off reading this draft. It's all completed now. Round 10, it was Marcus Smart, Wesley Matthews, Lou Williams, Avery Bradley, Jay Crowder, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Tony Allen, bunch of shooting guards, Jarrett Jack, Taj Gibson, Harrison Barnes, Nick Stauskas, best pick of the round, if I'm going to say so. Alec Burks finished off the 10th round. The 11th round started with Julius Randle, who's been showing up pretty well this preseason, putting up some decent stats. But you also have to remember he's going against preseason defense, which when Draymond Green just lets you go right by him in the preseason, it's the preseason, buddy. So chill out. All right, man. TJ Warren, that was me and I actually regret that pick. Not completely, but I just wish I would have taken somebody else. Jordan Clarkson. I tried to take Clarkson, actually. Aaron Aflalo. And Jordan Clarkson, I envision him as a better version of Evan Turner. Maybe not fantasy-wise if Evan Turner actually gets enough run this year, but he's just a better person than Evan Turner. Aaron Aflalo, and that's kind of mean. Evan Turner was doing some cool stuff this offseason. He kept talking about how he wanted to get an Uber and just pick up random people from time to time, which would be fun if you just randomly ordered an Uber up and Evan Turner showed up at your house and you were like, holy crap, dude. Holy crap. PJ Tucker, that wasn't too good of a riff. Aaron Aflalo, PJ Tucker, Andre Iguodala, Aaron Gordon, we love the upside there. Ben McLemore, we hate the downside. Jose Calderon, he's just too much of a stiff these days. He's not the Jose Calderon of own who's gonna put up like 8 assists and 1 turnover. He's gonna put up 5 assists and maybe a 3-pointer a game and not a whole lot else. Brandon Wright, Bojan Bogdanovic, and then Trey Burke to finish out the 12th round. 13th round, Otto Porter, Jamal Crawford, Rodney Hood. Love the upside on Hood. Love the downside on Crawford. The Clippers have Pablo Prigioni to serve as a backup at point guard. They have Lance Stevenson there. Didn't they sign Jordan Farmar too, I think. They've got Paul Pierce coming off the bench. There's so many people that can handle the ball there. Blake Griffin is dropping dimes left and right these days, It's just, I just don't see how Jamal Crawford really has a significant role there. That's why they've been talking about him being on the trade block for so long. Rodney Hood, Patrick Beverly, Marcus Morris from Detroit. I think if somebody's going to lose out on a starting job to Stanley Johnson, it's probably going to be Ersan. That's just the way it seems to me. Ersan, when they have him out there on the court, he'll have a good game where the other team is stupid and they fall for his charges. And I mean, he's great at drawing charges, so I'm not trying to like belittle that skill of his, but you're not getting the greatest defense overall out of Ersan Ilyasova. So it's much better offensively if they can just spread it out with Marcus Morris and Stanley Johnson. And then you got 4 guys on that court surrounding Andre Drummond who can put the ball on the floor, take it to the rack, and they can all hit the outside shot. Just diabolical. John Henson, Langston Galloway, Costa Koufos, Dion Waiters, Courtney Lee, Kristaps Porzingis, and Jeremy Lin, Mr. Irrelevant, final pick. Jeremy Lin's interesting just because it appears he's going to get quite a bit of run off that bench for the Hornets, but you wonder, well, how much can he really handle the ball? Or are we really going to see Kemba Walker just take that big of a step back in the pecking order? Because Al Jefferson's got to get his touches. Batum's supposed to be getting most of the touches. There just might not be enough ball to go around. So some things to consider. All right, finishing out my team. John Wall, Reggie Jackson, Ty Lawson, Al-Farouq Aminu, Derek Favors, Myers Leonard, Marc Gasol, Jonas Valanciunas, CJ McCollum, Stanley Johnson, Nick Stauskas, TJ Warren, and Kristaps Porzingis. And, I guess I did get Derek Favors, so that's good. But you see how if you want to get good point guards and good big men, it's just difficult. The only guy who's really got decent upside late in the draft for a point guard in a 9-category league is Ty Lawson. He's probably got the most upside out of anybody because of his low turnovers with his high assist rate. And that's one of the reasons, just looking at this team, it feels lacking to me. I think it'll be competitive. We can see where it sits in the standings here. In field goal percentage, I'm projected for 46%. In free throw percentage, I'm projected for just 76%. 3-pointers, this says I don't have enough. Here's the thing, though. Points, it says it doesn't have enough. It says that, rebounds, assists. Assists, it says I have enough because I've got Reggie Jackson. I've got John Wall. Steals, they say I don't have enough. Blocks, middle of the road. Turnovers. If I'm middle of the road for turnovers, that's the one place where I'm like, all right, I'm doing great with the middle of the road, because you need good players and good players average turnovers. So I'm never going to be top in turnovers. Pretty much never. You would essentially have to punt assists to be good in turnovers, which would just be boring and suck. Because it's hard to punt assists while also getting great free throw percentage, for one thing. So yeah, not not the greatest look in the standings. I mean, they've got me pegged for being 12th. That wouldn't happen. But if we look at my team and we say, where are they wrong in the field goal percentage? I'm pretty sure Ty Lawson has had some great seasons back when he was with Denver. I'm pretty sure he was a guy who shot closer to 50% one season. So when you look at what Ty Lawson shot last year when he hated his life in Denver and he shot just 43%, oh man, you know what? There's actually a startling, terrible trend here, although it kind of coincides with Brian Shaw's hell. So Ty Lawson, 51% in his first season in the league, 50% from the field, second year, 48%, 46%, and then 43 and 44% the last 2 seasons. But those last 2 seasons were under Brian Shaw. Maybe he just wasn't happy. You know, new atmosphere, new vibe, good times, best buds with James Harden. I don't really know if they're best friends, but they were texting before the whole move came. A lot of this intrigues me. If you can get a 46% field goal percentage out of Ty Lawson, that's going to help. That's going to be killer. What else do they got here? I actually think Myers Leonard could shoot a worse field goal percentage because I expect him to be taking plenty of 3-pointers this year, but that also means more than the 85 3-pointers they have him projected for. I think you're going to get like double that. You're probably going to get like 160 3-pointers out of Myers Leonard this season. He's the starting point guard for the Portland, why did I say point guard? Power forward for the Portland Trail Blazers, and he's gonna be hitting like 2 3-pointers a game. So pretty bullish on that. Myers Leonard is also going to give me potentially more blocks than what they think he's going to give me. Yeah, maybe. And then you hope that Valanciunas plays more minutes this season. You know, last year we talked about it. There were so many nights where he played like 18 to 22 minutes because they just didn't want to play Valanciunas in the fourth quarter because they wanted to match up with small ball, yada, yada, yada. CJ McCollum, I doubt he'll shoot better than the 44% from the field. Hopefully he shoots better than 69% from the line. I think he will because CJ McCollum's stepping into a new role. He's going to be playing starting shooting guard. He's going to get backup minutes at point guard. So, and be the primary backup point guard. So if you look at those 2 things for CJ McCollum, where he's going to be handling the ball more in a facilitating role, that means more assists than what he's most likely projected for here. Also, if he's getting more attempts at the free throw line, usually with more attempts, you get a better free throw percentage overall. So hopefully we can get him over that 69, and then hopefully he can help you by shooting better. Stanley Johnson, hopefully he shoots better than the percentages that he's projected for there. Nick Stauskas is projected to shoot just 39% from the field. I highly doubt that. The one way that Nick Stauskas will shoot just 39% from the field is if he's chucking just tons of 3-pointers, which if he's chucking tons of 3-pointers, then at least he's helping me out in that category while creating the dearth that he creates for me at field goal percentage. But yeah, I guess what I'm trying to illustrate is that don't worry about the standings on a particular site. One of the reasons what often happens, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So if you draft the guys who are at the high end of the rankings, well, they're probably at the high end of the rankings because they were projected to have the most production, the most stats. So if you're drafting the highest guy all the time, yeah, you're probably going to be the highest projected standings at the end of the draft. So don't look too much into it, especially if you're a person who goes in there with your own strategy and your own punt method that you're trying to use. See, I was trying to find a different word for strategy there, and the best word to use was just strategy again. Sorry. So when I'm taking a guy like Reggie Jackson a round early or whatever, and other players a round or 2 early, that's fine for my strategy for me wanting to get the kind of production that I need at the time in the draft when I think I need to go get it, because I'm not worried about the rankings and I'm not worried about these standings at the end of anything. I have a good handle on the kind of production that these players give me, and I have a belief that they're going to have an opportunity to do even better than what they're currently projected to do. Also, even if they end up not being good for your team for a 9-cat rotisserie league, if all of these guys that I drafted, some of the upside guys like McCollum, Stanley Johnson, Nick Stauskas, TJ Warren, Kristaps Porzingis, if there's things about them that are hurting me, there's a good chance that because these guys are all going to get plenty of minutes this year, I'll at least be able to flip them for a player who helps me improve my team. So at least I'm getting high upside guys who, even though they may not have fit exactly what I was trying to do with my team late in the draft, I can probably still flip them for something else that may help make my team a little bit better. And with rotisserie, sometimes you're often doing addition by subtraction too. Like if you recognize I've got to get rid of this guy because he's just killing my free throw percentage, then you get rid of him and you're like, you just start to see it climb up and you're dancing and stuff. Now, before we end this, I guess talking a little bit more about the strategy and why percentages are king in rotisserie leagues. The main thing is that whatever your guys are going to average over the course of the season, shooting 48% is the target from the field, 80% from the free throw line. They're going to average that. That's just what they're going to average. That's everybody does what they do. So your team field goal percentage is going to be, they may struggle in the first week or two, and you might be like, what's going on? James Harden can't find a shot for heck. So now my team's all blown up. Realize that's just a fluke. Everybody ends up pretty much averaging what they averaged. People are who they are. Over the course of the season, you will get those percentages. So you need to get those in the draft because you only get elite free throw percentage and elite field goal percentage generally, especially as a combo in one particular player. You only get that in the very beginning of the draft, in the first couple rounds. You're not getting it later. It's not coming. And if it is, you're getting great percentages and not jack squat else, like a David Lee kind of guy or an Enes Kanter. You're going to get percentages, you're going to get points, you're going to get rebounds. That's it. You're not getting blocks out of those guys. You're not getting steals out of those guys. You're often not getting three-pointers out of those guys. So there's a give and take. To get somebody who gets you everything good across the board and still gets you percentages, that's got to come early in the draft. And for big men, that's really, really, really early in the draft. Now, why you need to get those percentages in the draft and why counting stats, points, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks, turnovers, or turnovers you do need to do well in the draft in too. But the main 6 counting stats, 3-pointers, points, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks, those add up throughout the year. And we all know, we've all played in leagues before, people stop setting their lineups. People stop paying attention to their team. If you stay diligent, if you pick up the hot pickups, if you take your injured guys out of the lineup, make sure that you're hitting you're on pace to hit your 82 game threshold at each position, and you do want to do your best to use every single game. Now, that doesn't mean that every day you're rotating in your bench players, but it means when you know that guys are missing games due to injuries and whatnot, at those times, you move somebody in there and you get another game and they're on a random day. And you make sure you're swapping your injured guys out or the guys who are getting rested so that you get the games that you're supposed to get over the course of the season. You don't want to burn through it all too early, because all that'll do is you'll get high in the standings, you'll use all your games up, and then you won't have any games left. And you'll just watch yourself slowly fall down the standings. And as your team falls in the standings, your heart will fall into your stomach and you will be sad. So don't do that. You got to manage your games throughout the season. But as you are managing your games, those people who stopped setting their lineup, their percentages, there could be somebody who sets their lineup on the first day of the year and their team gets a 54% field goal percentage and then 100% free throw percentage. I just like saying 1,000%. And they just stop setting their lineup. They're going to get 12 points out of those two categories. They're going to win field goal percentage. They're going to win free throw percentage, even though they've only played one lineup for one day of the year. But they won't win any of those counting categories. Everybody else will beat them. They'll win turnovers too. So if you want a surefire 36 points in a 12-team league, just only play the first day of the year. But over the course of the year, as teams stop setting their lineups, as teams pick up, don't switch out their players and stuff like that, you're gonna catch up on guys. And those other guys who aren't paying attention are going to start to fall down in the standings a little bit. You're going to catch up on them in different categories, and other people are going to catch these guys, but your percentages will always be what they are. You can't just change those in a minute. If your percentages are crappy after your draft and you've already drafted, you got to start making trades to improve your percentages before the season starts. Got to do it. Anyways, that's about it for me. Thanks for watching this. This has been a 9-category rotisserie mock draft. My name is Kyle McEwen. You can find me on Twitter at RotoKyleNBA. Our theme music is Happiness is All the Rage by The Promise Ring. You can buy their music on jadetree.com. This music's from like 1997. It's just junk that I loved growing up. And then the message of the song is just kind of the way we want people to enjoy fantasy. Be serious about it. Take everything serious except for yourself, and have fun, and try hard and all that kind of baloney. But anyways, I'm from dailyfantasybasketballpodcast.com. You can go there. You can donate to the site. You can go to iTunes, go to Stitcher, go to TuneIn, go to any of those places that allow you to put a rating and a review on there. Those things help us. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back probably later tonight with another podcast with Mark. And thank you again. I'll talk to you later, guys. Love you. Bye-bye.